FPLstudios.com.
Fantasy Premier League tips and cheats. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. That was a new song I just finished. I hope you like it. As you've seen on the previous video, I went through my first draft team selection. Now in today's video, I'm going to show you why I chose that particular set of players. First, I'm going to show you 3 proven strategies FPL experts won't tell you. These are important changes in your approach that can give you a massive advantage. It's a huge time saver. Second, you've heard of a to-do list. I created a to-don't list, which is like a checklist with quick tips on what not to do at the start of the season. And third, I'm going to give you a sneak peek into Chelsea's new signing, Christian Pulisic. I was pitch side to cover the Gold Cup, and now I'm going to be covering a Premier League team very soon, so stay tuned. All the top FPL tips to give you a competitive advantage. 10,000 views since the first draft video, 5,000 subscribers. We're almost at 3 million views on the channel. That's unbelievable. Thank you so much for all the likes, for subscribing. Some of you may know me from the fantasy blog at upper90studios.com. My name is Bruno Batista. I've been playing Fantasy Premier League since 2007. I'm fortunate to have built a record of finishes in the top 1 to 2% for over a decade. Last season was actually my best ever, finishing 21k in the top 0.3% out of 6.3 million players. One of my goals with this video is to show you how to take a step back and see things from a different perspective. Getting off to a fast start in FPL is not just about selecting the top players, it's also about highlighting blind spots in our strategy and focusing on the right priorities. So let's begin with 3 proven strategies FPL experts won't tell you. First is to avoid being consumed by junk stats. One of the biggest changes I've noticed recently is the number of FPL content creators. It's hard not to get overwhelmed by countless stats. When you come across some impressive sounding statistic, you should think about how it could be misused by the person delivering this information. I call this junk stats, and it's not because the stat isn't correct. The stats and data don't lie. The problem is with the analysis and delivery of that stat, because you might be seeing it through the lens of how that FPL influencer wants you to see it. Once you understand this, you're going to start double checking your own stats and coming up with your own conclusions. There was a defining moment last season where everything I learned culminated into this one big decision, and that was game week 36 for the triple captainship. At that time, FPL influencers were posting all these negative stats on Salah on social media, and on the same Twitter threads, they would promote Mane with these impressive stats, how he was way cheaper and a much better value. So you've heard of safety in numbers. To reduce the risk of a big decision backfiring, sometimes the FPL community can feel things out on social media and kind of agree on the same plan as a group. It's not out in the open, it's sort of like in hidden. The giveaway is if their tweet starts with, "I'm seriously considering ... Then it snowballs from there. So for game week 36, their decision was to triple captain Mane. Now both the negative Salah stats and the positive Mane stats were accurate. It was the way the FPL influencers filtered it and their delivery of this information that pushed people away from Salah or even the idea of owning both players. So what I did was I used all the stats that were relevant to my plan. If someone said Salah was creating chances but not finishing them, even though they might have been negative in their eyes, I saw it as a positive in FPL. In time, I thought he was going to convert those chances. So I used this information and I combined it with my high team value to make a move for both players, triple captaining Salah for 57 points game week 36. Now for those who know me, and I've been sharing FPL tips for 5 years, I always give honest feedback when rating someone else's team, even if it hurts mine in the process. It's not easy knowing that my team is going to be affected by my own tips. If I own a player whose price is close to dropping, it's not easy for me to write a blog post to thousands of readers suggesting they sell him. If I post something saying to sell this player, that's going to hurt my team value. It's going to hurt my overall rank. And this is a reason why I've stopped sharing tips and making videos before. It's hard for me to find a balance between creating FPL content and managing my own team, and really enjoying playing the game because I'm also really competitive. I want to win. So one of my goals for this season is to put up new videos consistently, and if that means that my overall rank is going to suffer, that's okay. So once you start to see things in a different perspective, like junk stats, you can approach big decisions with a view from opposing sides. You can start seeing the big picture. But remember, it's not the stats that are wrong, it's the analysis of the stats. I'm going to show you how to use this concept throughout the season, and if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification so you don't miss out on anything. And here's a quick tip with stats. When you're on the transfers tab on the FPL website, the players are sorted by total points scored from last season. Now, you should consider taking screenshots of these stats because these numbers are going to reset to 0 closer to game week 1. You're not going to be able to tell who the strongest performers were. And then you can do the same for any other stats like bonus point system. So be sure to take screenshots or save that page on your browser. Now, another strategy FPL experts won't tell you is don't trust your instinct blindly. This is the hardest adjustment I've ever had to make. Up until last season, I never studied my competitors' teams because I didn't want to be influenced by their decisions. I wanted to trust my instinct completely. My competitors are strong FPL managers with winning records. Some are popular FPL posters on Facebook or Twitter, and we can track their player ownership stats because their team ID is public. I'll show you how to do that once the season begins. Now, I always keep an eye on my competitors and the players they own, and it absolutely influences the decisions I make. I experimented with this idea a lot last year, and every time I made my team too unique when compared to my competitors, it almost always backfired. Red arrows. So, with this strategy, there is still room to explore original ideas. But let's see it in action. Around game week 36, I wanted a Liverpool defender. I already had Salah and Mane, but I wanted triple Liverpool cover. So my first instinct was Virgil van Dijk. He was the safest from rotation. There was the Champions League semifinal coming up against Barcelona, and he was also in excellent form, just 4 points behind Robertson at the top of the FPL defender standings. In previous seasons, I would have trusted my own instinct and moved for Van Dijk right away, but this time I had a new strategy. I wanted to check which Liverpool defenders my direct competitors actually owned. So I researched them with 2 different methods, and the easiest and most effective was doing it manually. I simply entered their team ID of, let's say, 15 popular FPL influencers, and I wrote down all the key players they owned, and out of those 15 managers, I counted out how many owned each player. And this is what it looks like. This is super high tech. Don't get bogged down by this. This is really simple. It's just my notes, but this was key to me finishing 21K last season. I used this strategy and came in around 4th or 5th against these 15 really strong managers who have a way better record in their career than I do. So, as you can see on the sheet, 9 out of 15 had Laporte, and 10 out of 15 had Robertson, and only 1 owned Virgil van Dijk. So I already had Laporte on my team, and I was on the hunt for a Liverpool defender. My instinct was going for Van Dijk, but my new strategy revealed Robertson as the real threat to my overall rank. As you can see, I even took a hit for a defender, which is something I wouldn't normally do, but it worked. Robertson banked in 14 points, a net return of 10 points after the -4 hit. Van Dijk ended up scoring 6 points that game, and there would have been a net return of 2 points had I gone with my instinct. So by not trusting my instinct, I actually built a safety net against my competition. Now, the last strategy FPL experts won't tell you is increasing team value is important. Just don't force it. Conservative strategy works, especially in the beginning of the season, as players are still settling and it's harder to trust form. I think this was one of the reasons why so many strong FPL managers struggled last season. I saw some of them going in early with early transfers, and they were doing things that they normally don't do. But last season, I took just 1 -4 hit in the first 6 game weeks, which is like a miracle for me. I really feel like a completely different player now with this new strategy. No more increasing team value by making more transfers in the first half of the season. Now I rarely go in with an early transfer to beat a price change. I always want to wait until the press conferences before making transfers, especially if the player has a midweek game like the Champions League. Imagine you go in early and that player gets injured. You're going to be forced into another hit, or you're going to be stuck and you're going to watch his price drop and your team value is going to collapse. Now, I've been learning different ways to increase team value for 12 years. I think what's happening is team value is coming naturally from making the right transfers every week. It's more like a subconscious effort. I'm not really thinking about it and trying to think about prices. My highest team value last season was 108 million on game week 37, and I absolutely used it to my advantage with the chips. I scored over 100 points with every one of the 3 chips. Even though many FPL experts won't admit it, team value is hugely important. It's a difficult strategy to explain. It's like an automatic process. But what I can do is I can help you with your transfer plan in the comments, and hopefully you'll see a bump in your own team value this season. So you've heard of a to-do list. Here's the to-don't list. These are the tips on what not to do at the start of the season, so you can narrow down your focus and see the big picture. These are the things that you should avoid. And by the way, I want to thank one of the commenters on my blog, because he's the one that gave me the idea to put this together into a big list. So we already covered the first 3. Avoid being consumed by junk stats, avoid trusting your instinct blindly, and avoid ignoring team value, which means that team value is important. Now, number 4, you want to avoid players from newly promoted teams. In the beginning, I'd rather focus on players I know can deliver points in FPL. They've already shown that they can do it. I'd rather compare players like Callum Wilson versus Josh King. That's more important to me. Let other FPL managers experiment with these new players, from newly promoted teams, and let them fall down the overall rank. Then you can learn from their mistakes and invest on the standout players. Number 5, players transferred to a new club. And this is something I'm probably going to avoid. Daniel James, incredible potential, but we saw it last season with Felipe Anderson, Andre Schürrle. They barely made it past 60 minutes game week 1. So sometimes we see an adjustment period with these types of players. Number 6, players who are not guaranteed starters. Mendy said that he could miss the first month of the season with a knee problem. So that means that Zinchenko steps in. It's an opportunity to get Man City defensive cover without the premium price tag. Number 7, players whose style doesn't translate to FPL. I'm thinking about Xhaka at Arsenal, Andre Gomes at Everton. These are important players for their teams, but their playing style or the areas that they cover sometimes on the pitch, it could take them away from FPL points. Number 8, injury-prone players. One player I'm seeing on a lot of drafts as a way of freeing up funds is David Brooks, Bournemouth. Every time I added him to my watch list last season, it felt like he'd pick up an injury, a small injuries. But this season, I'm not going to cut any corners from the start. I'm aiming for Ryan Fraser instead. Now, number 9, yellow red card magnets. This one, I think some of you are going to disagree with, and that's okay. I can speak from my own experience, and I'm going to tell you that it's going to be really difficult for me to trust Jamie Vardy at the start of this season. Last year, game week 1, he came on as a sub, scored against Man United. He looked really good, so he had the privilege of being my first transfer of last season. And then 60 minutes into game week 2, huge nasty tackle right in front of the referee, straight red card, 3-match ban. But I'm going to stay open-minded, and if the majority of strong FPL managers invest in Vardy at the start, I might change my mind, but I'm still traumatized. Number 10, overspending on the bench at the expense of the starters. Funds are limited at the start of the season, so I'd rather invest the majority of my budget on the starting 11. Really simple. Number 11, players with extended rest after competitions this summer. This one we have to play it by ear. For instance, Sadio Mane, he's away at the Africa Cup of Nations, so it's possible that he could be given extra rest, and he could miss game week 1. So be sure to select players that are back in full training, ideally confirmed ready to start by their manager in a press conference. Now, I'm not saying to do less work or to do less research. What I'm talking about is timing. When you should focus your effort on newly promoted players. FPL is about doing the right things at the right time. Now, I just got back from Philadelphia. It was my first time there. I had a famous Philly cheesesteak. I saw the Liberty Bell, walked up the Rocky Steps. I was actually there to cover the Gold Cup quarterfinals with the U.S. men's national team, and I had a chance to get a close look at new Chelsea player Christian Pulisic. I noticed that he was on all the set pieces, and his dribbling stats could actually give him an edge in the bonus point system in FPL. But can his playing style translate into points? We have a full review on our website at upper90studios.com. And by the way, check this out. Pulisic signed for Chelsea back in January, but Fantasy Premier League forgot to add him to the game. So I actually called him out. I wrote the scouting report, and I tagged @officialFPL on Twitter. My bad. So they actually ended up adding him to the game the very next day. I didn't mean to get you guys all worked up. As I said at the beginning of the show, I'm going to be covering a Premier League team next. So get ready, because I'm going to be pitchside at Fenway Park in Boston this weekend for Liverpool versus Sevilla. I'm going to have a sneak peek at any new player signings and a behind-the-scenes look at all the action. Be sure to follow @Upper90 Studios on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, where you'll get the inside scoop before YouTube. So that's going to be a wrap for today. If you like that new song I wrote, it's free to download on the website. See the link in the description. Stay tuned for a scouting report on Van Dijk, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold, all the Liverpool stars. I can't wait for this weekend. And if you want to support our channel, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on your post notifications because this season is going to be epic. Good at FPL? Join U90 Mini League for a chance to win. Don't forget to subscribe to our email list and get your free fixture difficulty cheat sheet. Click the Fantasy Premier League tab at upper90studios.com. If you're on a computer, it's at the top right of the page. If you're on the phone, it's at the bottom. Thanks for watching. See you soon.